Firstly, I want to say what is web services. Web services is basically just allows software written in any other programming language to communicate with any other programming language over a network. That means when I have used JSON, RPC, swap, and REST, I am wanna show the JSON key. So JSON is key pair, value pair, number, decimal, strings, booleans, arrays, objectives, and null. Now I implement the JSON code. What is JSON? And we implement the JSON code, such as I want to write phone, home, this is the key pair value. Mobile, this is the exactly same, no other strings or any other written in language, only that same what we implement. Then we write age. I am going to give an example of working with multiple difference of the differential data available. Then we put mobile inside the 3 OK, and we close the bracket, and we have the example how we could model the data right here and inside the JSON. Then phone, I have to say the phone, home, sorry, we mistake, a semicolon, then again, and mobile. It is a single pair value that allows just JSON. In JSON, it is actually JavaScript language. This is where we can implement like this, but we here implement by some other program language that we multiple choice. Then we implement and say the string value and all the value, first name, the Dale, last name, the Cooper, age 35. Oh yeah, mistake there. And enrolled, this is true. Married, this is null. Oh, mistake, again mistake. This is address. Under the address, it has subclasses. Straight 1 2 3 Dhaka, city, Dhanmondi, state Dhaka. This is closed. Now I have to put the comma here, and I entered the phone that I early input. So I just copy the line and paste it here, and of course this is the main thing. This is actually a JSON code that we run. Then this is the single value pair Now we implement into database that how we learn the first and JSON. Now I implement the JSON code in database. Firstly, we have to create the database. I have already created in the database. Localhost php myadmin. Localhost php myadmin. Then I have created the student db. Then I create the table database. This is the first name, last name, email, state, zip, phone, birth, sex, date, entered, launch code, and student ID. Here we implement database from PHP. Now I implement the connection. Firstly, I have to add this and create a new file and save it to in htdocs. Now I want to say web. This is here I want to write the student db.php. I have to write the code here php. Now create a class to store database and to initialize the database tables of variable student db, then public first name equal to here we implement after implement later public. And to copy this here, just copy file. We have to implement 13 because in database structure we implement the 13 character. There here, and I'll write the last name, here the email, here we can see street, here we can see city, here we can see state, zip, phone number, then phone, exactly as database which I was initialized in the database. Bar date, sex, date, entered, launch cost, student ID. This is the third objective, and I remove this. Then we have to construct the function to construct, and that's all these things we have to construct for input the database the exactly same value who is our IOT implement in this file, or I have implement by JSON code, and I will show you later how I am implement this. Then the city, then I will implement the state, then I will implement the zip. So all the variables which was entered. The phone, oh, I already have this. Then birth date, then sex, then I want to enter date entered, then lunch cost, and student ID. Then I have to build from the construction database. This is this. This is the wheel 13. Then I paste the 13 objectives one by one. Now I have to write again the first name is the first name, last name, is the last name, and email. Then I have to write the street. Then I have to save this. I've implemented and rearranged the all, and I have to save this. Now I implement the other new file, that is the MySQL connection. Then I have already write this code. My student database name is student database. I have to save this. Here, and this is my SQL connect.php. MySQL I connect.php. This is the connection of the database. Here is the username, password. I have no password, so I blank this. This is the local host name, and this is the database name. If database is, this is the pass, and if database error, it shows nothing and shows to die. So I have to import the new. This is the JSON code I want to run. Then JSON code.php. If I implement the content type, then I have to create a header on content type. C is the right content type. Application JSON. Now I want to actually highlight this, comment this. This is not actually I want to do, just want to show. Now I have to implement the student db.php in this folder. So it write student db.php, then a semicolon, then code JSON data. This is the JSON code. Now I have to, JSON code decoded a JSON string into a format we can use for JSON data, and I include JSON decode. First name, del. Now displays the constructed of data, the object, class, and first name to the string variable into data. This is the actually multiple JSON code. We want to write this, and one object that contains a key of first name and 4-character string del. So I have to write var dump JSON data. So actually run this. So what will say? Localhost by web by JSON code.php. This is the here we take the object class first name. This is the output. Now I want to show in string. Then I have to create an objective and then encode the data using JSON. So I have already now create the class of address. And public then I write that code already to short this video. This is I have to create a class and then function construct to address the initialize, and this I have to input data from this file to a local networking center. So I have to write this. Then I have to create a student class, and then I have to construct this. So this is the class student. Now I write the code of student class, and thus I have to file construct, and this is the home method. Here it is, you say that this is the new address, street, state, and this is the phone to exactly another variable. This is not have an ID or any other language. This is in JSON code. So then I have to implement the data variable in array. So how can we construct? Then we have to say the value del Cooper new student. This is I implement the del Cooper new student application. Thus this echo for space. Then I have to implement the query, and firstly I have to implement the get a connection from the database and check the connection. If has error, then have to fail. So this is here for database connection, and this is if has failed, then it's already exist. Then I have to write code for query restricted for student data. Query select all from the student database, students, where student ID in 1 2. Then we'll hold all the students striped. So I have write the code. I already write this code, and I have to enter here the students array, and I have to enter the result. If result has fetch object, then if there are any error number, but Then I have to value percentage s. Then this percentage is for the first name, this percentage is for the last name. This is the object I have entered in the database that will show the this is the stamp. So this is for new database to implement the stamp library file, and this is the array to show the array file to the stamp student. Now I have to implement the JSON code. I have to convert this code into JSON method. So then I have to write the JSON code here. Here I write the JSON code. This is a Dale data from the here, and from this file to student array 0. That means number 1 file, and this is the separate for echo and for and bracket, and this is the other student array in A. Now I have to save it and run this. What to say? Oh, I have the error. This is the actually active file that I will notice later. This is the null state, many other things. Now I want to write the XML code by RPC. This is RPC is actually the JSON code's modified versions. JSON code inquired the small value, but here I want to implement the more value to by RPC. So then I have to save it for XML code.php, and now I have to implement, well, whatever is received this data is content type. The insert the student database, that was the page that I was include early, and student db dot php. Then XML is used when you want to provide detailed information about your data, like attributes and data types. So I have to write this code. Del Cooper array Dale. This is here the code. This is Dale Cooper 123 Main Street and Seattle to Washington. XML new simple XML students. Now I have to implement data. This is the file for define all the data will between the student tags. This is the student tags. I have implemented that early. This is the get for each. This is the get each piece of data from the array and put it between data tags. This is the XML version. After we run this is will the XML version, and that will show. Then I have to write DOM. This is the generated DOM document. We can style a DOM document represent an entire XML document. That's DOM import simple XML, then XML then owner document. Then I have to, oh, I have missed that DOM. This is the state we want to data to be intended. So I have to write down format output, let's save it and echo DOM and save XML. This is the DOM code I have to enter. Now I have to run this code from the, what we'll say, this is XML code. This is Dale Cooper, mainstream and settled Washington that I was implement in student database. But we have the XML version, the source, so paste the source code. This is the XML version I have to initialize. It's the XML version. Now write the code to generate a connection of the database. I just simply run this previous file and copy this. This is the database connections. Now here, now I have to select a query and the database that I was include the early. So I have the student array. This is will hold the student restrict. This is the, and if result dbc, sorry, if result dbc query then while object result fetch object, this is for fetch object to receive and retrieve the data. Now I have to write the code of printf. This is I was entered from the student database. I was entered. This is the first name, last name, email, and this is from the student database I was entered. That is here, and that was here. Now I have to write the XML version, echo XML version 1.0 encoding. This is for encode, so I have to utf minus 8 echo. This is the hold the student information. So I have to write this. Now I have to cycle all through all the students and print them surrounded by the tags. So I have to write code for each student array. That was 0. This is first student. This is a key. Key, and this is the value. Now I have to write the code echo key value and then save the student information. I already write this, and this is the example version, and this is the key follow that is code. Now this is done for XML code. Now I have to create another file that is called rpc code.php. Now I have to write the rpc code.php for showing them and the database. Require once. Now I have to implement the student db that I was created earlier. That is to implement this file to this rpc code. Sorry, I have to write another code that is students.php. I have to initialize the students and the first name and the last name and other things. Now I have to create the class of student. Students, curly bracket. I have to create the student fn for the array. I have created the database, and now I have to create another function, public function get student last name, get student last name. Student ln, that means last name to initialize. Ln shaman array, we have to write it input in array. So Cooper, this is for first name only. This is first name, this is last name. Then I have to import Cooper. I implement this. This is the Trooper, Johnson and Brigade, and this is down. I have to write the RPC code. Firstly, we have to initialize the students.php. Then student data shown new student if is set post request switch post the request. We have to insert the student class and we input the data. So I have to write this sorry, this is the submit, and this is for request. Now I have to enter the switch brace case 12 case get the data. Now I have entered the data in the HTML format. Is the student case, the last code and first code and the another things. Now I have to create a form. Action equal to rpc code.php method Rahman post. Now select. Now write the code. Is the right code, and I have to run this, that what is showing in the database. So I have to run this rpc code. This is the first name and this is the last name. That was entered correctly, so that was the result. So I have to implement the another case of database. So I have to implement this first. Now create a for swap and rest. Swap is basically just this connected for student database to network connections, and it is the it has the swap service clients to run the swap service, and rest is the actual format of modern standard and database web service system that is required the unique, all have the unique ID, unique methods, that is get, code, put, delete, post, put, delete. Get is for get the data from the get the value from the database. Post is for put the database from the value, and put is from the update the things, and delete is from delete the database. So I have to write the I have to edit the student.php file to initialize. Now I have to post the database. Now I want to get the students names also, so I have to put the value from this here. I want to write the code, that is I have to create another function. Public function get student's name, now I have to write this code. Now I have to write this code. I already write this code that is here, and this is the full name of the students database. This is the Dale Cooper, Harriet Roman, Shelley Johnson, Beverly Brickett, Dora Short, and all results. And this is for return the value of students names, what was included the students names method. Now I have to create another file that is called swap service. This is for swap service. .php. And swap service is basically a simple object access protocol is based on XML, and it is the way to access web services. A web service description language, that means WSDL, is an XML format commonly used with SWAP for describing the functionality of network services. A WSDL, that means web service description language, describes how the service is called, what parameters it expects, and the data structure is returned. So non-HDL is swap service. It inserts the student class. So I have to write this code from PHP. Require once. That means the I have to import the student classes that also import the RPC. When I was doing RPC, students, semicolon, to close. Then because a the web service description language is not used, we must provide URL for the service. So that means option array URI HTTP URI. This is the URI function. I have to close that. So this is the URL function. So I have to URI, and this is the local host. This is the close the bracket, and create a swap server object. Now we have to create a web server object. Now we will either pass it to a web service description language file or null, and the array that contains the URI. So that means that we have to call the server new swap server null and options that was created in the previous line. Then I have to define the class that holds the function we want made available. So I have to write server to define the class to hold. So set class, and this is a student, and we have to create the server handle. This handle is used to process swap request and response. So I have to check this, all are correct. Then now I have to write a new file for swap client. So I have to save this swap client.php. then I have to save this, and I have to write the code PHP. We must define the location of the service in the client. So I have to go write this code. So because we don't have WSDL file, that means web service description language file. So I have to write option array location http local host wws by swap service dot php. So I have to put the comma here, and I have to write the URI. That means HTTP localhost. Then close the close that on that. Now I have to write client new swap client that is first null, and that is the options that I was create early as possible. Then I close that, and it provides the client to read from the service, and it either receive the WSDL file or null on the options. So I have to write this code. So after that I have to initialize the students client get student name to get the students all name that I was entered the student.ph file, student names, exactly the same parameter I had used. Then echo I have to input the value of the students, and to close the curly bracket and catch swap fault. To catch the swap fault, and X var dump X. Then I have to close the PHP. This is the swap file I had entered, and I will explain later. Now I have to connect for the REST client to create the REST client. So I have to appear the connect the REST client, I have to write the API file. So I have to write api.php file. Then I have to write PHP function get student info to call a function the student info that is a unique ID. So REST is have the unique ID. So ID that is the student info array. This is for REST is representational state transfers, allows anything to work with your data that can send a HTTP request. This is most common method user get, post, put, and delete. Get is used for retrieve data from a resource. Post is used for to create a new resource but is considered unsafe. Put is used for update a resource but is considered unsafe. Delete is the use for delete the resource and also is unsafe. So I have to write data switch ID case 1. I have to write the switch case form basically. Student info on array I have to write all the code. Here it is. I write all the code and function name. There's the main thread WA, that means was. Then it is write the code, the first name, last name, and address. Then I have to write the code. This is the data that normally is pulled from database. This data is normally pulled from database. So I have to create a function to get student list. This is the student list array to create this value into a different array is that initialize id 1, name, Dale Cooper. Then I have to write the array. This I was entered this. Each case have the each initial ID for the last name. That is the donor Howard is the ID is 5. That's as initial the value. Now I have to execute the proper method above the based on request. So I have to write if is set to get the value to get action switch get action value get student info get ID break. I have to write another code. I have to write the switch case, so I have to forget case button case get this is the code I was entered to execute the proper method above the based on request. Now I have to write exit point JSON and code value is correct and the initialize and close the bracket and close the all value. This is for the API. Now I have to create the another file that is called REST client .php and now I have to write the HTML code. Oh, sorry. This is body PHP check if one of the student name links was linked. That means if how can I check, then লিখতে হবে is set get create the get value get action command get student. That also create an API function API.php. so I have to write the another code to get the specific student data. So I have to write student info dot file get contents this is the file name. I have entered HTTP to initialize the directory local host ws web API dot php action get student and ID. Sorry, this is would be here. I have to written in problem mistake that now I have to get the data get ID to get the all ID. I have to close the bracket and I have to decode from this one into an array. So how can I decode? So I have to write student info JSON decode student info true I have to close the PHP so I have to write first name PHP format, then echo, then student info, the first name that was correctly from the bracket to initialize the form of first name and the last name PHP echo. I just copy this file and paste it here, and this is the last. And now for address now I've already pasted it here. I want to edit this feature to address. This is the initials. Now I have to write the code of PHP again, call the PHP method. So I have to close the bracket and I have to write else. This is else print out the list of students. To call the method get student list in the API to call the list, so I have to write student list file get contents http local host by ws by api.php, that is call the API for action call get into student list. So I have to convert the JSON into array, so I have to write convert student list JSON decode student list to. So I have to close the PHP format. Now I have the cycle that throughout the student list print them out with the correct ID. So I have to write PHP PHP for each so I have to close the PHP function. Now I have to write an simple HTML format href to link the code of PHP. Echo HTTP localhost web REST client dot php. Then I have to write action method action get student and ID. Student ID PHP echo student name. So I have to write this code from whole name, then chart, then close the A button, then bracket, close bracket. Then I have to write the PHP format again. So int for each. So I have to write PHP close and write. I have to initialize the body. We have the wrong with the database, so I have to call that on that. What is the problem? The problem is student ID so here it is the problem, and we have to run this, and here it is the output database of the. Thank you. My name is Mahbubur, and My ID is 1331165 North South University Electrical and Computer Science